Is that the only technology that we've gotten from these spacecrafts?
Oh, no. I mean, there's a whole constellation of them. So you have energy systems, propulsion, communication, surveillance technologies that bypass electromagnetic fields. Really kind of amazing technologies. There are biological spinoffs. As a doctor, I actually have learned of some of these technologies that would be amazing for curing some very serious injuries and diseases. But again, it's using this type of physics, generally called trans-dimensional physics. It's very high voltage electromagnetic field systems. And so there are many spinoffs. And this is one of the problems. Over the last 75 years, the only thing that's been a spinoff from these technologies are things like integrated circuits, silicon chips, fiber optics, night vision. Those all came about from studying ET material. But the energy, propulsion, things that would really make a difference in how we live. Because imagine, I mean, even if you're just, Joe Sixpack with an F-150 pickup truck, which is my culture from North Carolina. I grew up like that in North Carolina. If it's costing you $125 to fill up that truck, but you could put an electric motor in there and a little tiny battery that would start the electric generator, and it'd never have to be plugged in. There'd be no fuel charge. Well, everyone on Earth, except people who are highly vested in the current paradigm of energy, would think this is great. So out of 8 billion people, there'd be certain people who wouldn't like this. And the average worker in a coal mine or oil field or solar panel factory, they just have to be retrained and given some assistance until they move into these new high-tech sectors. But you really can't keep this secret for too much longer. It's too dangerous for geopolitically for the planet. It's too dangerous for the environment and what's happening to the Earth. And it creates huge instability. I mean, the whole have and have-nots problem with the developing world in the West is in large part because of the energy sector. Because imagine if 8 billion people live like you and I do with air conditioning and cars, the price of a gallon of gasoline would be $100 a gallon, at least. So the system we have now requires unbelievable poverty. And the only way to get out of that trap is to bring out these new scientific breakthroughs. But to do that is easier said than done. You talk about, when you talk about Washington, you talk about, special interests and vested interests and lobbyists. Some of the biggest, most powerful military contractors and energy sector lobbyists are going to be not happy with this coming out, because when you move away from, what I always tell people, look at that video. You can splice it into this show if you want, of the Pentagon, the film footage from David Fravor and other pilots. Look at how that thing's moving. I just tell people that is an alternative energy and propulsion system. That's absolutely what it is. It's an alternative energy and propulsion system. Everyone, you need to demystify it a bit, because once you understand that you're dealing with a whole new area of energy and propulsion, then it makes sense why this is secret. It makes total sense why it's secret. In fact, not that it's good. And I think maybe in the 40s and 50s when those decisions were made, they weren't aware of climate change. They weren't aware of oceans dying. They weren't aware of all these other issues. And what happened is that it became a deep, black, covert institutional issue that the generations since the 40s and 50s haven't known what to do with. And the result is the world we see. And the world we see is we're headed towards sort of an extinction level event, environmentally and otherwise. And I tell people the good news, however, the reason to be very hopeful is that we can prove we have the technologies to fix it. So that's why this summer we released this documentary, The Lost Century, and how to reclaim it. The important last part, how to reclaim it. How do you go from this mess we're in now to a new civilization that would have free energy? Eventually, we'd be able to get rid of roads because you'd be floating above with anti-gravity devices. You'd be able to restore the land, the oceans, and clean them. Water, you can pull water out of the air because the energy to dehumidify air and create water would be free energy. You could desalinate ocean water. There'd be no more problem with shortages of water in all the developing world, et cetera, and so on and so forth. And every little village in Africa, Asia, anywhere could have one of these generators providing their energy needs for being able to become developed, but without damaging the environment. The other thing is, I don't know, a lot of people know this, 3 billion people right now on Earth don't have the means to cook their food. They're cutting down rainforests and cutting up brushes and deserts and stuff. That's 3 billion. And so a lot of the damage to all the foliage is because humans just don't have any way to even cook their food. So when you have 3 out of the 8 billion people living like that, and on the one hand, and on the other hand, you have technologies that have been illegally classified and kept secret that would fix that problem, this becomes an issue that's much more about little green men or something. It's really more about the human future, in my opinion.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that there was around, I think you said 120 aircraft shot down?
122 cases that we know of extraterrestrial vehicles that have not been shot down with kinetic missiles, but with electromagnetic weapons.
Okay. If we're shooting down their aircraft, why would they keep coming back? And, did we ever recover any aliens from this stuff?
Oh, sure. Yeah. If you look at the Disclosure Project material, including on my YouTube channel, the interviews with some of the men that were on these retrieval teams, you'll see, for example, Sergeant Clifford Stone, who was on in the 60s. He's just recently passed away. Was on a team retrieving the bodies and handling them from these downings. Yes, we have multiple people who've been involved in those operations. I have a new whistleblower coming forward who was doing that in northern Nevada out of a Hilo helicopter base where they had downed an ET vehicle, although it did not get destroyed and it ended up taking off again, but not before this military top secret guy had an encounter with 2 of the ETs who were incredibly nice people, apparently, and were kind of appalled that we were still doing this. So, and I have been at places where I know that these objects have been downed, and I have a list of about 147 facilities where the objects have been stored or where they've been taken to, where the bodies are stored. And all of this is, I'm in the process of handing over to the Senate and House investigators and the Pentagon.
What's up? This is Cam Capone. We got more content like this coming soon, so hit that like button, subscribe, and stay locked in to Cam Capone News.